Ya, no había activado el sonido, perdón. Otra vez, Rubik.
Ok. Una, dos. Hola, ¿qué tal? Bienvenidos a todos. Buenos días. Gracias por estar aquí tan temprano con nosotros. Bienvenidos a las escuelas, a los estudios, a los desarrolladores que nos acompañan y sobre todo a quienes presentan hoy y a quien nos acompaña desde Suecia, Raw Fury, es Johan. Entonces, mm, oigo un eco. Soy yo, ¿no? Ok, pues bienvenidos a todos. So hello everyone. I know our people join us from Spain and some places in Europe and also Latin America and Mexico. Thank you for being here with us today. So let's just start with this presentation of Johan Thorsson from Raw Fury, which is a publisher from Suecia. Hello, Johan.
Hi, and I'll try to make this as
I guess it's
uncomfortable.
your microphone
Yeah,
close.
it's
No. Okay.
sound is okay.
Ready.
Yeah, it sounds okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll try to make this as quick as possible. But since this will be mostly in English, I figured I should at least try to say something properly. Hola y bienvenido. Realmente no hablo español, así que cambiaré a inglés ahora. So now I've done my part. I've tried to say something during a presentation in Spanish, and that should hopefully be better for everyone who's pitching later, if anyone felt uncomfortable. Right. So today we're going to talk really fast about something that a bunch of you will be doing in San Francisco in just about 2 weeks, and anyone who's looking to work professionally as a game developer, at least as an indie game developer, will be doing at some point during the company lifecycle, pitching, and particularly what makes for a good pitch submission. The overlap between a good pitch submission and a good pitch to bring to a meeting is essentially 70%, I'd say. Oftentimes you won't need a playable for a pitch meeting, of course, but it can be useful if it's a longer one, or if you've already discussed it in a detail before, so to sit down and actually play with someone. This is going to be a very, very short presentation part, and then we'll try to throw the questions out to the people in this chat and people at YouTube. I think we might be running at a little bit of a delay, like a 1 point something minute delay towards YouTube. So we'll see how that works. Worst case scenario, I'll pop into the YouTube chat and we'll take it from there. All right, so what do you need for a good pitch submission? This is fairly straightforward. A playable PC build. If you don't have a build, it's hard to play it, and then it's hard to review it. And the stuff that we are reviewing is essentially the build that we have in front of us. The idea that you're presenting on what it's going to be and when it's done. Your ability to get that done, and your ability to kind of figure out, the path to get there. The most common question I get at this point is usually, so all right, so you want the build, but what does the build contain? Like what should I put into the build? Obviously a really relevant question, but also extremely hard to answer when it comes to like generalizing. What you should put in the build is going to be very different if you're making a competitive multiplayer RTS, or if you're making a platformer, a fighting game, a driving game of some sort, a racing game of some sort, or a cozy situation, right? If you're making a fighting game and the footsies and the combos or whatever the USP is for your game doesn't feel good, then then it doesn't matter how pretty it is. Same thing with a platformer. Like if you're pitching a platformer and the level design just from a straight platforming perspective and the locomotion and the play character control isn't like feeling good if you can't get the flow feeling out of it. It doesn't matter if you have a great backstory or a super cool, you know, mechanic that's going to be transformative. If 90% of the time is going to be spent running, jumping, and moving around, then that is what needs to be tight, even at that early stage. And the same thing goes for any other game, like a racing game. If the driving control feels shit, if you don't have a sense of speed, then that's a worry. Doesn't matter if you have a really cool meta layer on top of it, if the core experience doesn't feel good. So obviously from this you can see that certain genres have higher points of like things you need to get in. Like for an RTS, if it's have a single player component to it, then you probably need to have some sort of basic AI and pathing and stuff that works on that end. If it's competitive, then you need to have some sort of balancing going on. Compared to, say, making a limbo like where it's one character, some physics, obviously being very generalizing, but character, physics, a puzzle, and a visual language that makes it stand out in some way, shape, or form. As for the visuals, it's also fine to have like 1 or 2 screens, essentially, with like, this is where we're heading with a visual target. If you don't have the time to actually build out in full, which most of the time you don't. So here are some other things that are good or nice to have when you're making a playable build. Essentially, having skippable cutscenes and intro is always good. The first time you think, maybe I want to watch it, but the second, the fourth, or the sixth time, I definitely want to get past it so I can go to the place I want to go and, maybe show it to someone at the company or whatever. This kind of leads back to the second point, checkpoints or save states, so you can easily move between different parts of the demo. That's super nice to have. Subtitles, if the language isn't English in the game, definitely helps. On my end, at least. I will try to contextually understand what goes, but you don't want me to be doing guesswork. If the game is set up to be a bit particular or have a bunch of different mechanics that makes it so that, just by grabbing a controller, there might be combinations you're not thinking of. You might need to push this bumper and that trigger or whatever together. Just having a simple control scheme on an image or in a document is helpful. And then lastly, a build that you feel conveys the essence of what you're trying to make. You obviously know what you're making, or you should hopefully know what you're making. And you want the playable build to convey the core of the experience. If it's a horror game, you need to have the thing that makes it stand out from all the other horror games. It might be a particular aspect of the narrative. It might be how character designs. It might be settings. It might be the systems driven stuff. You look at a game like Dome Keeper. The core of that for me, if I was pitching it, would be the tension between going down into the earth and digging out resources, and continuously going deeper and deeper to get the resources needed to build that rocket up so you can leave, versus defending the dome upstairs. So you're always having to make like this interesting decision of like, should I go deeper, should I be greedier and get more resources so I can defend myself better, so I have a bigger chance of getting out without taking damage, or should I take the safe route and just make sure now to get up like early, so I don't take damage now, but I might suffer from resource, a lack of resources down the line. A budget of some sort, also very, very nice to have. And obviously impossible to make a decision if you don't have it. this is also something you should keep in mind when you're pitching at conferences and such. If you don't have a budget, you don't like, it's going to be tough for anyone to have any proper feedback on terms of like, is there a business to be done here? Because I can't make a decision if I don't understand what you're asking for. And for Raw Fury, asking for money is part of it. Like, we do funding deals. So if you have everything else in the deck but not a budget, I can see kind of what you need, but I don't have the final piece that tells me exactly what you need, exactly what the question is. You should be able to have a better budget than months times the burn rate. But this is essentially, if you have 10 seconds or 30 seconds to talk with someone, you should know the amount of month you have left on development and approximate burn rate. So, and then the more granular you can go in a deck, or rather in an attached budget to the deck, the better, of course, but some sort of bare minimum here. You don't need to have stuff like costs for marketing, costs for porting and such. It's nice to have, like, to get an idea of how you're thinking. But the most important part is how much will it cost you to get where you need to be to release the project at the level of quality that you're looking for. And here we come to the deck part. So a pitch deck, for me, at bare minimum, should answer these questions. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? Who are you actually? Where do you want to go? What do you need to get there? There's supposed to be I've lost a little character there. But what do you need to get there, and when will you be there? So by answering these questions, if you've never done a pitch deck before, you can literally just take one of these per slide and then explain it to yourself. Explain it after that to a friend, and if they understand what the fuck you're on about, then you're probably fine. But essentially, what are you doing? If you're saying to me in the deck that you're building a competitive RTS, but I'm playing a build that's like an arcade racer, then there's a discrepancy here, and I will be worried that you don't know what you're doing. Like, the deck and the build needs to play together, right? The deck essentially holds the promise of what you want to do, and then the build verifies that you actually know what you're doing and that you can actually reach that point. Why are you doing it is a bit fluffier of a question, but it's essentially, why does it matter to you? Has it been a dream forever? Is this the first step of building out a studio? Is this, a bigger picture somewhere where this is the starting point to getting to a cool franchise that spans FPS, racing, and RTS? Like, it doesn't need to be solely like, it comes from my heart and my passion and my dreams. It can also just be like, what's the business reason for you that you're doing it? Sometimes it's, I have to make this project, this game, this piece of art that's been stuck in my heart for forever, and I need to get it out and get it to the world because I feel it's important, and it probably is. Other times it might just be, I loved Streets of Rage when I was growing up, so I want to make a brawler, and I think that the brawling space is underserved currently in the game space. So we're doing it, and we're adding this twist, which I think is gonna fucking rock the shit out of this audience. Going forward, also, I'm terribly sorry for speaking quickly or fast. I figure most of you are probably used to it, but otherwise, hopefully the translation is helping out a little bit. Who are you is pretty straightforward, right? It's who's the team, who's behind the game, who's making what, and what have you done before? Like, have you worked on other things similar? Have you worked at other studios? If so, what did you do? Is there any materials you have from there that I can look at? Essentially it's about both, like, letting me know who the team is, letting me know a little bit about the team background, and you can also show that, you know, we're saying we're going to do this and we have experience doing maybe not this but similar things in other capacities in different companies in some way, shape, or form. In terms of where do you want to go, this is also kind of like part of the ambition, right? Like, what happens after this game? Is this a one-off? Is there something else? Where do you want to go with it? And what's your ambitions with this game? Like, is this something you want to get out and sell 5,000 copies and then you're good? Or are you looking to do, you know, 100,000 copies, 500,000 copies? And if so, do you have any like idea of how you're going to do it? What do you need to get there? It's a budget, right? And it's also, do you need porting services? Do you need marketing, influencer relations? Do you need platform relations? Is there anything else outside of that? Is it localization, funding, you know, whatever the team needs, really, that makes sense, that to help you build the project out to the you know, the vision you have in your head. And lastly, the very simple question: when will you be there? Super simple to answer in a pitch deck, really fucking hard to get right in the real world. I don't think I've seen many games being delivered at the date that you say. You know, if we're talking now and we're talking about 2025, maybe even getting it out in the same month is occasionally hard, because there's this intersection, right? This like breaching point between art and technology, and it's really fucking hard to know where things are going to go in 20 months. So, you know, it's good to have a target, and then it's also good to keep that target in mind and revisit it and rework and keep your production plan up to date. You probably, it's likely that you will slip a little bit somewhere. And lastly, what else can you go for a pitch submission or for a pitch meeting? And it's fucking anything, right? Sounds stupid, but anything here, you know, it can be concept art, it can be trailers, it can be music that was inspired to mood boards, puzzle design work that you've done but not put into the game. It can be anything and everything that fleshes out the pitch. This is probably not going to be like deep dived into unless everything else is good and you know, the publisher is interested, but having that might help out to sell kind of like the idea of what you're doing better. Because in the end, it's just like, I want to see the project as much as possible as I can from your eyes, and whatever you have really that can help me do that is good. I'd argue that everyone should learn how to do a competitive analysis or a market viability analysis of some sort, but it doesn't necessarily, if you don't know that, you know, it's fine, but if you have it, it's great. If you already have your project up with a Steam page, for example, but not released, you know, and you've done some work, you can showcase maybe how many wish lists you have, what sort of wish list trajectory you've had over the last 3 months. If you've done any type of marketing around it, like did you have a TikTok go viral? All right, so what was the sort of the wish list spike related to that, and did that impact the baseline wish list? Like, is this an audience that's keeping on talking about it with other people? And you know, that can give an idea of like, have you connected already to an audience, and what sort of audience is there for this project, which obviously helps de-risk things, right? And you know, you could argue that this is not the most relevant thing to have. It's a publisher thing that you're asking for. I would argue quite the opposite. I don't necessarily need these things. but you as a developer, you should most definitely keep track of it, because in the end, it's your business, it's your project, it's your thing that you're gonna be releasing at some point, and all of these metrics, they shouldn't decide for you, but they should inform you about what you're doing right and what you're maybe need to work out. So you're not just like throwing around your fists in the dark and trying to hit an elusive target somewhere. So keep track of those numbers. Yeah. And if you're, if we can't meet at GDC, for example, or at another live event, which is perfectly fine. There's no real massive benefit to sitting down and pitching live, in terms of, will the game get looked at properly and will we get feedback, etc. The real benefit of pitching live is the human connection, right? Where you can get feedback on the pitch as we go. You can talk about the pitch more and see the reaction. But usually for those kind of events, it's like 15 to 30 minutes of talking, and then you're gonna have to rush out because otherwise you're gonna be late to whatever the next meeting is. Usually there's no time to actually play the game, and if there is, it's like 5 minutes and someone's fiddling with the controls and something breaks, and then suddenly the meeting is over. So it's not necessarily the best place to actually play the game, but it is it's nice. It's a nice place to meet the people behind, right, and get a bit of a vibe check and see, who's this, Swedish redneck that can't stop cursing at all times. Do we actually want to work with these people? Do they know what they're doing? Is the publisher an asshole or not? Maybe you can get out early and don't waste time. So that's good. But it's never like, sending stuff is never a bad option. It's an equal option when it comes to getting stuff signed. I'd argue somewhere along the lines of 40% maybe of the stuff that we have signed over the years since I joined has been stuff that was sent to us, and not stuff that we've seen. Out of every project that Raw Fury has signed ever, as far as I know, I think there have been 2 that were signed in a conference setting. Many that have been signed based on, like, you meet someone, you talk a little bit, and a year later there's a deck coming your way because you built up a level of trust. But it's not something that you have to do. It's a nice to have, regardless of what the big conferences say. There are great digital versions of it as well. Just next week, you have Indie Game Business, the Powell Group's digital conference, which, it's digital, it's cheap, and it has all the same people that you can meet in a really expensive fucking burger place in San Francisco from 2 weeks from now. I will be there, in both in San Francisco and on igb.com. Yeah. I think that's the last one. Nope. Yep, that's it. Sweet. Now we can open up for some questions.
Yes. Before that, I'm gonna put the last recommendation, the business indie from Jay Powell that you made. I'm gonna put on the chat, guys. If you want to check that out, these are super good options. If does anyone has a question, we are ready to do it right now. And remember, please, we have some gifts from our sponsor, Keywords. So please sign up the forms. And seems to be we don't have questions. Super clear. People was writing a notes on the chat, so they are putting attention for this. So we are ready to present the next following pitches. So the first pitch comes from Mexico City. The studio is Horizontal Entertainment. with the video game Witches from the New World. It's all
I'll stop sharing.
of yours.
There we go.
Yes. Here we go, guys.
Can you hear me?
All yours.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen now. And I'm going to deactivate my camera because I don't have a great connection. So
Yep. All good.
okay. All right, cool. So my name is William James. I come from TACWIZ/Horizontal Entertainment to present Witches of the New World. So Witches of the New World is a game target at PlayStation 5, action adventure Souls-like RPG. And we are planning a release candidate for the second quarter of 2025. We have a teaser trailer, but we're going to show it only if we have a little bit of time in the end. So yeah, let's get into the concept of the game. So basically what we're trying to do is to mix several different aspects of several genres. Like we want to have the combat and progression system from the Souls-like genre, mixed with a little bit of survival horror and traversal mechanics from games like Prince of Persia or Assassin's Creed. Maybe not that exaggerated, but yeah. So we'll be able to use environmental puzzle to challenge the player to get from point A to point B. So the basic concept of the game is that you are a witch hunter named Jedediah Hawkins, descendant of infamous witch hunter Matthew Hawkins, which is an historical character. So we want to mix some historical concepts and characters with a more fantastical approach to the monster and action genre in this regard, and basically explore the clash between different religions group in the summer of 1693, a year after the Salem witch trials in New England. So for us, this is the starting point of a bigger franchise, which we like to call the Orbis Tenebras universe, which refers to the name of the secret society that Jedediah works for, which is a group that is not tied to any particular church and have their own set of beliefs regarding monster hunting and accusation of witchcraft. So overall, what we want to do is explore different time periods and different historical characters mixed with very well-documented mythological creatures from classic monsters that we have seen over the time. You know, we want to have eventually encounters with vampires and werewolf and, you know, swamp thing, that kind of things, the classical monster that you saw in movies in the early 20s. We want to start with witches in particular because we think it's really relevant to the behaviors of human beings regarding different opinions and beliefs. It's a subject that can be related across different cultures and across different time periods. So for the base of the game, we're going to have a melee and range combat alongside with a system that we're really proud of as of now, which is the offhand system, in which basically the character is going to be kind of like Batman. He's going to have a bunch of things on his belt as an experienced monster hunter. So you're going to be able to change your control scheme with the push of a button to actually get access to flintlock, pistols, you know, holy water, dagger throwing, and that kind of stuff. We're also going to have acrobatic mechanics, nothing as fancy as wall running on that kind of thing, but the character is going to be able to move around, jumping and grabbing ledges and climbing. The branching dialogues is going to help us forge the morality scale of the character, which is going to be directly tied to the way that you progress in your skills. Basically, depending on your action and dialogue, you're going to access different branch of faith power through your morals, which is going to create the opportunity for the players to make many different builds, not only in weapon style, but only in magical powers, basically. We have the roadmap right now for a release candidate for second quarter of 2025. Right now, we are in the prototyping phase. We are not going to be showing any prototype footage right now. We are saving those for the GDC conference. But yeah, right now we are looking for a team for the funding needed for the first two team expansions, the 2023 and 2024. And after the release candidate and the game going gold, we are planning to have a couple of DLCs, hopefully until 2027. One reaching out into the more diabolical part of the game, the witches themselves, which is the first DLC, the coming of Abigail Williams, which is an historical character, basically the reason why the Salem witch trials happened in the first place. And the second one, a little bit into the Lovecraftian monsters, since we're going to be handling the game in the New England era. We think that's a great match to have some Lovecraftian monsters there. What we're looking for as of now, we're not able to have a number for this presentation. We have a budget breakdown, but again, we're saving it for GDC. But yeah, we're looking for completion funds for the production cycle, and also a publisher that helps us precisely, as you were saying, Johan, with marketing and distribution, product development, and the porting negotiations, which are parts that we are not really familiarized with. Well, outside of the mixed match of different genres, we decided to go with this game. And the reason why we believe this is a great opportunity is because we didn't actually went into the Souls-like because of it was popular, but because after the analysis of the concept and the way what we want to play on with the time in the game and the death and life mechanics, we figure out that the best way to present this is through the Souls-like genre, which is right now is very popular, but it's actually not a decision based on marketing, but on concept. And due to the narrative nature of the game and what it's trying to say about human behavior and tribalism, we believe is very relevant right now. Could be very relevant for the public itself. We did a small market research about how the Souls-like genre has been behaving since the first Demon Souls in 2011 until now. We have Elden Ring, which brought every sort of records here and there. But what was interesting for us is how it has changed from the Miyazaki-based game, which is basically the inventor of genre, and other companies that started like as imitators and now created as a different subgenre of gaming. And for what we can see here, other companies are making great results. The red line basically are the Miyazaki games, and the green line are other companies. And even, I mean, this was made with the information that we have available to us. But even in a low case, like you can see here in Mortal Shells, which 500,000 copies. We know that the game sold a lot more because of the behavior of the developer afterwards. They make a free DLC to thanks the community, to thanks the gamers. So yeah, as the way we see it, Souls-like game aren't going anywhere right now, and the popularity only is growing right now. As for our team, I mean, we create horizontal as basically best of the class program from our company, where we take the expert that we have right now from, our company is very corporate focused. We do a lot of servicing, even though we also do our games. But we figured that for a game like Witches of the New World, it's going to be odd for the final consumer to actually get into our page and see this corporate vibe. So we create horizontal to kind of counter that and have the people that comes to check our games, know that we are gamers ourselves, that we are all in this about, the art and the quality of the story and the quality of the gameplay, not so much the product size of it. Well, I'm not gonna get too much into this, but the core team of the game basically is the ones of us that have more experience working in big projects inside and outside the industry of video games. Some of us have worked a lot of marketing, and some of us have worked a lot of on cinema also. And well, we have Adrian, which is our CEO, so has a lot of experience coming from Ubisoft. And the rest of the team that we picked for this particular game, our tier 1 team that is all over the world, which also helps. The multicultural aspects of team has been very helpful to kind of see where we all agree that is interesting to say regarding human behavior through this very action-packed game. A little bit more of the info. The core loop is we're trying to achieve here is to basically have Jedediah Hawkins to investigate through Salem, searching for the acolytes of each of the 7 witches that are scourging the region. So in here you have to do a lot of talking, and you have to do a lot of investigation mixed with a little bit of combat. But this is basically the part that is going to settle your moral compass in the game. And afterwards, after you find the acolyte, you're going to get an item that is going to give you access to the realm of one of the witches, which is where we're going to go full Souls-like, with the backtracking and the interesting level design and the combat against very specific monsters and all that kind of stuff, and eventually getting into the witch itself of each of the realms and having a big boss fight, and then rinse and repeat. You go back to Salem and you start the investigation of another one of the Witch of Covenant. The interesting thing about this is that depending on how you do your investigation, the perception of the people of Salem about you is going to be changing along with your moral compass. So you're going to be able to change the outcome of several characters and the game itself through this part outside of the swashbuckling actions that you're going to have within the realm. We have planned a multiplayer, which we call the Game of Mirrors, in which you enter specific points in the game where you find a room full of mirrors, and you can interact with 2 mirrors. In one of those mirrors, you can leave your own reflection, and the other one, you can call upon the reflection of another player. The catch is that you don't know the moral of the player at that point, and if it is the same as you basically play as co-op. If it is the opposite, you play as PvP. So it's kind of a bet every time that you try to use this particular system, and we think that it's going to be interesting to see how the community and the players interact with it. For the New Game Plus, we also want to do things a little bit differently. Basically, you access the New Game Plus after a secret quest that you have to post main story of the game, the main storyline of the game, and you unlock the New Game Plus, and in it, each time you do a New Game Plus, we're going to remove 1 saving spot from the game. So eventually the New Game Plus becomes a permadeath. And you're also going to get item in each iteration of the New Game Plus and going to give you access to a specific part of the game in the next iteration. So it's not just rinse and repeat. You're actually going to get new content through the New Game Plus. And well, our influences are very clear. From the movies and games perspective, but the most interesting influence that we have are literary. I mean, the Divine Comedy, The Wonder of the Invisible Worlds is a very interesting book that was actually written by a guy that went to Salem during the trials. He was sent from Boston. So yeah, the most important influence that we have is historical and literary here, which is something that we believe is important to the crafting of a good game. So we have a control scheme. I'm not going to get too much into that right now, but we already, obviously, if we're trying to do a prototype focusing on combat and traversal right now, we need to have the controls completely designed by this point. So there it is. So for now, this is what we have. I don't know if you guys want to take the minute and a half that I have left to watch the teaser trailer for a moment.
Yeah, let's.
Okay, let's do it.
Perfect.
Can you stop sharing?
I was wondering if you were timing it because you were like fucking on the money. I was like, damn, that's a good internal clock.
Yes, we have 10 minutes of their presentation.
Can you hear?
Yes.
Two loves I have of comfort and despair. Which like two spirits to suggest me still. The better angel is a man right there. The worser spirit a woman colored in ill. to win me some to hell. My female evil tempted my better angel from my side and would corrupt my saint to be a devil. To be a devil! Wooing his purity with her foul pride. And whether that my angel be turned defeat, suspect I may yet, not directly tell. Both from me, both to each friend. I guess one angel in another hell. In another hell. Yet this shall I ne'er know, but I leave it out till my bad angel find my good one out.
Nice stuff.
It's not finished.
Oh shit. You have a
Yeah, it's not finished.
sneaky one. Nice. It's the Steve Jobs version of doing trailers. When you think you're finished, there's always some more.
One more thing.
Yes.
Nos dejó picados.
Yeah.
Super
Sweet. This was a really fun pitch to see. I'm going to focus mainly on like format questions and such, because that's probably what's going to be benefiting the crew that is listening in on YouTube. So I just did some quick notes. So the first slide you had with the high concept is a bit too much text and too long. It's just, it ends up with me reading the text and you talking instead, which is, suboptimal for what you want me to do. So that can, just fucking put that as an extra material or put that in an email or at the back end of the presentation. It's good that you have it in. It's nice to know, but you could probably summarize that up into like a paragraph. And then just go and more of the story and more of the backstory is you can find that on slide 16 or whatever, in the appendix. But it's a really interesting setting and it's fun to listen to for sure. Second slide, really good. That's what I probably would have started with. Just like here's outlining what the sort of like the core-ish of what we're doing and some of the USPs. USP being unique selling proposition for those of you who haven't been brain drained by the tech sector before. I spent some time in incubators, so I have that with me. The question I had there was the morality system that you mentioned there. Is that something that's going to be solely based on decisions you make during the investigation? Or is it also, taking into account more fluid things like how aggressive you are when you're fighting? Are you shooting people? Are you stabbing them brutally? Are you killing off the monsters in a certain way? Like, will it look at player actions outside of narrative aspects, or is it fully narrative?
We have a thought as a fully narrative. However, since it's tied to the fate system, which is where you get your powers, we are playing with the idea now that maybe if you use too much, because we are dividing the fate system in three branches, which is holy, unholy, and pagan.
Yeah.
If you have access because you took some decisions, narratively speaking, and you have access to some unholy powers and you use them a lot, it could potentially affect your morality system. And also, after you fight each of the witch, you have the option of spare them.
Yeah.
So it's against narrative, but it's after the combat. So yeah, it's mostly narrative, but we want to tie it to the progression system more than the combat, because we don't want to block the character from fighting a certain way to.
Yeah. I get that.
Keep their morality.
It's just what came to mind was the Jedi Dark Forces and Knights of the Old Republic systems.
Jedi Knight.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Because then, if I remember correctly, at least in the Knights of the Old Republic series, you could, if you were using like lightning and other dark side powers that would influence your leanings towards Sith or Jedi. So even though you had access to all of these powers, like you had access to healing or the light side stuff and access to the dark side, but if you were using more of the dark side shit, that would impact you even outside of narrative choices. Which is really
it has something that's like specifically 1997 Jedi Knight. You could be killing random civilians because we didn't have a dialogue system, so that was the way to go into the dark side, which unlock you the power. So it was directly through gameplay, and we might explore something like that in the future, but there's a lot of things that we need to figure out before
I got super curious, which is good, right? I had an actual question that dives into the design, which is nice. Timeline slide was good. What we're looking for is good. If there's anything I would like to add to that slide, it's not something you can put into the slide, but it's something to take with you into the conversation. It's like, why are you talking to this particular publisher? Like, if you're talking to Raw Fury, why do you think Raw Fury is a good fit? Or if you're talking to Focus Interactive, why do you think Focus Interactive is a good fit?
Oh, I see.
Because that way, it's part of it is you should know because you've done the homework, and part of it is also like it allows me to see what part of Raw Fury or what thing that Raw Fury is it that you're like, this is the thing that we saw that made us really want to go with Raw Fury. It's values, or it's this game that was a fucking success, or it's we talked to these developers and they said this and that, and we learned this. So it tells me more about the team and the studio, and it also tells me what the kind of the focus is. And it's not wrong to say, like, you're one of the few publishers that do early stage funding at this budget range, and have like and also you did a really nice job with this particular title, and we enjoy that. It's just a matter of like, it tells me that you have checked out what we've done and that you have an idea of why your project fits into the portfolio.
Kind of a more personalized.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's the difference, I guess, between if you're like you have a list of 600 publishers and then cold calling and dropping an email to everyone, which is a okay tactic if you're busy. Probably not going to be the most effective one, but it works occasionally. I've done it. But if you're sitting down with someone, then you might get questions like, so why would you want to go with Raw Fury? And if you don't know why you want to go with Raw Fury, it's fine, but it tells me that you're really just here because this is a publisher and you need money. Period. You need it now, which is okay, right? But having an understanding of the publisher you're talking to will probably increase the chances that you're not wasting your time talking to a mobile publisher by accident because they're called Raw Fury or something, right? Let's see. Competitive set is good. I would have liked to see maybe your definition of AAA and AA and indie just tied to the titles. Elden Ring, obviously AAA. Demon Souls, probably AA. Yeah, it's like
it's in the spectrum.
Yeah, it's like not as clear cut. And then Mortal Shell and Vampire. Yeah. Like, what are the difference between those in terms of just overall, like, is this an indie title, or is this a AA, or is this a AAA? And also, can you correlate anything between team size and success, or is it, where are we going here? Or depth of quality, all that shit. It doesn't need to be in the slide, like it's enough to just have AA, indie, whatever. But to be able to go into like, and as you can see, even this studio with 15 people, that's in like the high end of like indie, like III or whatever the fuck people call it. They made this, and it's still like getting 70% of the sales that you could find in this much more polished and larger crew of like 60 developers at a AA studio. And we think that is because of this and this. Because you you seemed like you have done a lot of research, so it would be this would be something I would like to talk about, just to kind of like get into the understanding of why you've chosen these, because there was no failures, there was no failed games in the competitive set. So my follow-up question would be, are these outliers? Have you cut off, have you cut the cream off the thing and looked at the core coffee? Like, have you looked at the core part of the games in this genre coming out, and how do they stack up against the competitive set you're using? Obviously, we want to hit it out of the park, but what does an average success look like?
Yeah, we actually talk about it when we were doing the market study, and basically it went down to games with some sort of a marketing budget, because, for example, in Steam you see a lot of Souls-like games made by the students, and or a single developer that doesn't have any sort of marketing. So in that regard, I don't think that those numbers are actually representative of what we're trying to do, because we are looking for a publisher because we want to have a healthy presence in social media and a healthy marketing strategy. So that's why we picked the games that we picked. For example, we were going to include others like Thymesia, which are smaller, but they were by the time that we made the presentation, they weren't out yet.
No, I mean, it's a better than average competitive set for sure, because it invites discussion, right? It doesn't need to be right. It just needs to be something that we can base the discussion around this from. Like I would probably, if I would have done it, I probably would have done the same as you, like cut out everything that didn't have a publisher and is below, 1,000 reviews maybe. And then look at like the top level stuff, like take out anything with a AAA publisher and try to go down towards the AA space, because Raw Fury obviously is not a AAA publisher. So let's not look at what Raw Fury can do in that space. Let's look at AA and like higher end indie stuff and see what kind of like what's going to be in around there. And then let's try to see what's the top 10% there doing. And have that's like, this is the target that we're having, or as a baseline at least. But that's also, it's not more right, it's just how I would have done it. And it's good that you have this comp set in, because now we can talk about it and you can argue against me, and I can, we can learn about how we think about this business part, which is great. Cool. The company info, great. The only thing I was lacking from the company info slide was essentially, what sort of work have you done before that feeds into your ability to expertly execute on this particular game? Like, it's very clear that you have the shops, right? It's the art is great, the video is good. Like, it's clear that like there's high quality work going in. But have you, from a design perspective, like what sort of things have you done before? Is there a combat designer that's worked on some really fucking juicy games? Is there, that kind of stuff, that just showing a few games or some projects, whatever, that kind of proves that you know what you're doing? From the look of the video, it looks good, but obviously it might feel different when I have a controller in my hand. Of course.
Yeah, I have a question on that regard, because we have two factors chime in there. I mean, first of all, as a servers first company, which is why we create a different branch. Most of the games that we have worked on, we can reveal because of the NDA stuff. And also, we are most of the team is based in Latin America, which is kind of new as a player in the industry. And of course, we lean a lot in Adrian's experience as an ex Ubisoft, and working, in the generation of the Prince of Persia, Sands of Time trilogy, and that kind of games. So how exactly can we get the best from publishers, knowing that we can't reveal that information, or some people of the team doesn't even have the experience in this particular industry?
I mean, that's fine. You can still say that that we've been doing outsourcing work on projects that has overlap, but because of NDA reasons, we can obviously not go into them. In the end, it's not going to be evaluated on that. It's just part of like a sort of like risk assessment.
Of course.
But if it plays well and looks good, and when I talk to you and you talk to the team, it's clear that you know what the fuck you're doing, then I don't need to know if you've been working on Starfield, right? I don't need to know that. It's fine. I just need to know that you know what you're doing.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna shoot through the next ones pretty quickly because now I'm running out of time.
Okay.
Core loop is great. The only thing I had the question there that you can, bring with you for further discussions. So I'll be seeing you in 2 weeks. So, is there an audience that want both investigation and action? Like, are you talking to two different players, or are you talking to one player that likes the kind of the tension between those things? Maybe not. If you haven't played Paradise Killer, I'd recommend you to check that out in terms of investigation mechanics and for how it does its judging and is open-ended in an interesting way. Multiplayer, great slide, clear, really interesting risk-reward mechanic. For New Game Plus, the permadeath mode, depending on how long the game is to finish, that's going to be people peeing in bottles while they're trying to make it through, right? 13, good slide. Control scheme, bonus points, and that was it.
Thank you.
Great work.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Johan. We have 3 questions, or do you want to jump directly in the next?
We can take the questions as a like a middle ground, and you can prepare to get the Cosmodrome stuff ready, James.
Ready. See, the first one. Does Raw Fury has example of Pitchdeck that the people can check out in your website or something similar?
There is essentially there's a resource page on the Raw Fury website where you can get like a Pitchdeck template that you can download and just exchange the images and exchange the text. You have a very basic, very ugly because I did it. Pitch deck, but it will like answer the questions that that I'm asking, and if you want actual pitch deck stuff, if you go to Twitter, you can find a thread for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago.
Yes, you made one.
Yeah, I can't remember if I saved it somewhere. Probably. But there were quite a few people and some from Mexico that actually put up their decks, including Ogre Pixel and a few others. So there's stuff out there, and you also have, let's see, Button City. Where do I find this? There's a bunch of different places where you can find decks. I think I'll put one in the chat here.
Thank you so much. The other question is, do you have any kind of video game in mind or a budget for indie or AA or AAA video game? What kind of video game, if you have a budget in mind?
In terms of like, no, that's completely up to the project. There's no, I shouldn't be the one telling developers what sort of budget they should have. It needs to come from them. And as for Raw Fury, we have a pretty wide range of projects that we have spent time on and spent money on. So ranging from, $50,000 to above 2 million USD, which is quite a wide range, and a bit more above that as well. And then you add marketing and service spend like porting, localization, etc. That adds more money as well, which differs depending on the project.
Perfect. Okay. Are we ready for the following team? Ready.
I think there's another question, right?
Yes, I put them together.
Okay,
the kind
good.
Of video game and
yeah, okay.
Sweet. Okay. The following pitch comes from a team with members from Argentina and Mexico. Our presenter, James, has been a solo developer from years, creating games for Newgrounds and other contact jobs. This January, he formed a team to take one of his most reviewed projects, Cosmodrome, to the next level, both commercially to in this production. Here we go.
Hello, everyone. My name is James. I'm an indie developer from Buenos Aires, Argentina. I'm 37 years old. I'm going to share my screen and share audio. Share. Okay. And this is Cosmodrome. What is Cosmodrome? It's about space stations. And this is the general description of the game. This game is an experimental pixel art indie game. It's a space station simulation that's run with 4 core mechanics or pillars. It has his own RPG system. It has its own space trade system, a tower defense, and a top-down shooter inside the station. And the game hook is a dynamic narrative system that I'm going to explain later in the pitch. The game is going to be made in GameMaker engine. The important thing of this is GameMaker has a long stability plan, and we're going to be using the last version of GameMaker, so we're going to have access to new shaders, new particle effects, and new animate curves, and a lot of new technologies that give the game more visuals and more quality. The game reference are, the first one is Faster Than Light. This is like Faster Than Light game. I'm a really fan of this game, and a Convoy. Both are indie games and pixel art games, sci-fi, post-apocalyptic, something like that. And there are other games in my heart that is Freelancers. It's an old game that is very special to me. And Space Trade, that is an old Palm game that I used to play, but the game has a lot of core mechanic of Space Trade and Freelancers too. The Target, or the general Target, is a strategy sci-fi role-play game, and the Target is audience more than 17 years old. The platforms that we are going to think to launch the game is Steam. It's a Windows game, and we already have a demo because this is an experimental indie game, and I already make a game, experience a lot with the mechanic with my friends, and I already launched the game 1 year ago. Here I have a link to go to the site. There are more than 10,000 people that play the game and had a very good score. I'm going to show the next here. You can watch the screen of in the Newgrounds page that a lot of people played and have a lot of reviews. And it was front page from a time like 6-7 days after I launched the game. It was front page on Newgrounds, and have a lot of feedback. We know. Well, when we say this is an experimental game, we mean it that we make the experiment and a lot of people test it, and now we know what are the strong part of the game and the weak, and so everything is there. If you go and click here, you want to find the game in Newgrounds. About the world building, everything in the games is happening inside the solar system, and I make that decision because everyone knows the solar system, so I don't have to explain every part of the game. There are no aliens or faster than light ship. It's like the idea of the game is it is happening in the near future, like maybe in 15 years or 100 years. And there are several factions. There are the Earth factions, and there are space colons and companies running their business without government regulations, and there are people who are trying to get their life here. And the funny stuff of this world building is that in the in-game, for a ship to travel from the Earth to Saturn, it takes like 5 years. So the idea is like, if you're going to be like, there are ships that are going to be traveling for more than 10 years, and people lives in the space. That's all about the world building. And these are the 4 main pillars of the game. Like, the game is really simple to explain. Have 4 main mechanics. Have an RPG mechanic, and when you start the game, you're going to create a character. You can choose his gender identity, so it's a non-binary game, like, and you can choose the physical appearance of the character and where he's born. It's not the same if you're born in the Earth or if you're born in the colonies, because this is going to set the game difficulty. If you're born in Earth, you may have like a life expectancy from like 150 years, but if you're born in the colonies, you maybe live 50 years, something like that. And you're going to have a skill system, and you're going to be leveling up that system and choose different skills. The next mechanic is a space trade. The space trade is going to have 13 resources that you're going to see here: water, food, oxygen, all that stuff. And you want to be clicking here. Sorry, you're going to be clicking here, and the ships are going to contact you, send you a message, and for complete the transaction, the ship needs to dock on the space station, make the transaction, and leave. And there is another system, subsystem, that is the game speed, that you can change the game speed to empower the space trade or speed the space trade system to make more money fast. And you can change. But something important here, this is a demo play, the demo gameplay, you can see. The interesting part of the game speed is when you are inside the station, the game is going to be fixed in super slow outside. I'm going to explain that later. Then you're going to have a tower defense systems that you're going to be able to, in this demo version, we have 10 different towers that you're going to be placing on the stations, and you're going to hire different mercenary ships that you are going to be, can click here, and you can move the ships, the fleet. So it makes a tower defense mechanic with a real-time strategy mechanics, and we're going to have enemy waves, like increasing enemy waves. And during the gameplay, you are going to need to hire ships to defend your space station. The next and the last mechanic is going to be that you are going to be able to walk inside your stations. This is a demo gameplay. In the actual, if you press the key, you go inside the station and you can walk. In this version, it's a top-down platformer. No, it's a platformer, but in the last version, it's going to be like a top-down, like Nuclear Throne or games like that, because we're going to explore the shooter version inside the station. Because here in this mechanic, I remember Dawnkeeper, the tension between managing the space trade and you have to stop that because you have like a docking ship that drop a lot of pirates and you have a shooting inside the station. So you have to stop the other mechanics and go inside the station with the security guards and shoot and kill all the boarding team, enemy team. And you're going to having a lot of crew members that are going to be inside the station doing their jobs. We don't have a trailer, but we have a showcase, and I'm going to show it right now. This was made by one person in 20 hours, so it's like something amazing. Sorry, I'm going to back to the slides. Okay, any question by anyone?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm typing.
Okay. Well, here you can see the difference between the published game and the game scope that we're planning. The game was made, the demo was made by one person, me, in 4 months, and the game that we're planning to do is going to have a 15 people team, and the full version is going to be ended 18 months after we start. In the demo we have one level, and sorry again, in the demo we have one level, and in the game scope we have more than 48 levels with different campaigns with a narrative arc, each of ones. We have 20 ships made by free assets on the demo, and we're going to have more than 75 ships on the game made in pixel art and 3D models, because we're going to use 3D models to render 3D model renders inside the game. We have in the game 96 pixel art portraits that are free assets, and now we're gonna and a pixel artist making portraits and a portrait generator. So we're going to have more than pixel art portraits, and crew members. Every portrait is going to have a sprite of the people, of the person inside the station. Well, the tower defense has 10 towers and it's going to have the double of tower and more than the double of units that you can hide. The models, we have 5 models working inside the station, like to make oxygen, to make food, to make repairs of fuel, and we're going to have more than 12 models running. And we have an immersive soundtrack that are 23 songs that I found like copyright music in YouTube, but now we have a music producer that is going to produce a dynamic original music that's going to change depending on the mood of the game. And here is the hook of the game as the elephant of the room. In the demo, we have 3 flash fictions, and in the game scope, we are planning to have more than 100 flash fictions. And how that works. This is a flash fiction, and what is this? Anytime a ship wants to make a trade with you, it's going to send you an incoming transmission. Here is an example. This is the patrol ship USS Inferno. This is a routine check. We are in the search of drugs, weapons, and criminals. Prepare to be boarded. We're going to dock in the cargo bay 2. I hope you don't resist the inspection or we'll have to destroy your station. So you have to choose, okay, I say you are welcome, so the ship is going to dock, and this guy is going to be walking inside the station, and if I have drugs or criminals, it's going to be a problem. Or I have to say, no, fuck the police, and I'm going to fight this bully, and it's going to be a fight. So this works in the game loop in this. You are going to be administration, your space station, your resource, your towers, and you will have an incoming transmission. That could be 4 elements. It could be a microfiction that is a regular trade. Someone wants to buy oxygen or fuel, and you make the trade. It could be a flag fiction that brings theme to the game. That is something more complex. It's not just a trade. It's something more complex, and we're going to have like short stories that are larger than that, and we're going to have character fictions that brings new characters to the station every month, like engineers, scientists, or maybe regular crew, or maybe a pet. Maybe you can have your own cat in your station. But the hook of this is that those flash fictions are going to be in different literary genres. They're going to be like 2000 comedy, 2000 sci-fi, 2000 romance, thrillers, and horror. And the player are going to be able to change the genre of the game from the option, like you can put or take down the volume of the effects of the music. You can go to like, I only want to play an horror sci-fi game, and you can like turn off the romance, the sci-fi, and the thriller, and have this own experience. And the interesting part is that there are more. The players can play more than 10 hours before this flag fiction start to repeat themselves. So. And these are randomly generated. So not generated, but the order. So every player is going to have a unique experience from the day one, from when they start playing the game. The price of the game is $10, like Faster Than Light and Convoy, because that's the genre of the game. And this is the team. I am the technical artist on the dev. I'm going to be programming the game. I am from Argentina. We have a producer, Sebastián Kovacevic. He's from Mexico. He has his own studio in Mexico, Dynamic Trial Media, and he launched Broken Reality, Astro Dogs on Switch. He has a lot of experience, and I met him in a video game event here in Argentina. And in that same video game event, they both work. Francisco Robito is going to be the producer and game designer. He's going to be helping me writing the game design documents and helping me to coordinate the work of the artist. And we have Priscilla Pascali. She's a 3D modeler. She's going to be making the space stations and the ships models of the game, because in the game we're going to have inside the game the 3D model renders of the ships, and we're going to make like one music video per month with the music that the producer is going to make. and with the 3D ships. So we're making a franchise here. We're not making only this game. We're going to make this game, a lot of flash fiction, music video, music, and we're planning to make some small games with the same assets to promote this game in Shams during the development. We have another pixel artist that is Matias Pinto. He's going to make the portraits. He's helping with the ships. I am a pixel artist too, so we're going to be working together. And we're going to have a sound engineer and music producer, Guido Facito, that is he's going to make. When I talk about the flash fiction have their own genres, the music is going to match that genre. So if a player change only, I want horror flash fictions, the music is going to be only like deep horror music. And if you like playing now, I want to police or detective story, it's going to be like more, the music is going to change between following the mood of the game. And we have a graphic designer working on the UI and UX, Javier Galucci. He knows this place a lot, and he was the person that most plays the game, so he has a lot of insight of the UX of this game. And the milestone is when we start the project, in the first 3 or 2 months, we're going to give, when we start with the publisher, we're going to show the full output of the game in the first 2 months and the complete game document. So the publisher know exactly how the game is going to look like, every ship, every station, every level, everything. And we're going to have a vertical slice, We're going to have a vertical slice in the month 6 with all the mechanics. And we have 6 months to beta test it. And we are going to be able to have an early access if the publisher wants to publish early in the month 12, with the half of the campaigns and half of the content, and the full release of the game is going to be in month 18. The budget about this project, this is the monthly cost. The important is I am the only one to be working full-time on this project, and my philosophy of this studio is like not overload everyone here. So everyone is going to have like a part-time job. They only work 20 hours per week. And that includes the meetings, and that includes and they're going to manage their own hour. There are going to be every week deadlines to deliver, but everyone is going to be handle their own production. We have the 2 producers in the project, so I don't think we're going to have problem with that. And we choose these salaries because everyone is earning like the same money, like $15 per hour, and we managed to make this production and calculate how many ships we need and how many times the 3 artists need to make a ship. So we make that math. So we have a real idea. And the total is this per month. And the total investment is this. And about me, I am an indie game developer since 2017. I'm launching a lot of games in Newgrounds. I'm used to launch 2 games per year. There are free games using free assets and different genres. I have a YouTube channel where I upload all development. There are several of these games, like Through the Forest or Procrastination. I record all the development. Like I make these games in 30 hours and make this game in 40 hours, and I have everything recorded, so the publisher can check my workflow. And here I don't have yet, but we're going to have, the links of the LinkedIn of everyone, so you can check the shops, the work before. And I work in another published projects, like Open the Gates, Stolen Future, or Make Zombies before. And what I'm looking for a publisher, I'm really looking for a partner that help us to grow professionally, because this is my amateur, like I'm making the step from being an amateur developer to a professional and make my own studio. So I need like the publisher is really serious about it. If he has his know how because I don't want to do the administrative things, so I really need something I can trust. So make the decisions where to start my company, how to do it, how to work, and learn a lot, because I think some publishers have a lot of experiences. I think I have a lot to learn about them, and this is just the start. Like, I have a lot of IP that I want to create, and I choose specifically this because I have a team. Like, I met this team in a video game event, and I think like we're in the point to make that jump. So we need really help with that. And that's all. You have my email and my cell phone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for taking the time, man. I forgot to put on the clock on this one, but I think that was pretty much on time. I'm sure someone else will tell me otherwise. So I got too involved instead of looking at the fucking timer I have. So just gonna go similar way that I did with horizontal. So top to bottom, essentially. The first page, it's a really good overview. The only thing I wrote down was essentially that's a lot of fucking genres, which it is. It's a lot of like all of those like any single one of those genres can be a full game, right? So seeing that without knowing anything else, my brain is just like, oh fuck me, this is going to be either it's going to be really, really interesting, or it's going to be really, really hard to execute. Later on in the presentation, you go in deep, explaining what they are, so that's good. But my first reaction is like, oh yep, that's a lot. I do like that you bring up Newgrounds, and using Newgrounds as a sort of a testing site for projects, and that you've been doing demos, you've been putting them up, getting feedback. That's super, super good. It doesn't matter if it's like 1,000 or 50,000. Just knowing that you are willing to put your projects out and get feedback from the faceless internet mob showcases that you want to learn, and you have some skin on your nose. You're not too worried. Also bonus points for having Space Trader in there and Freelancer as well, both games that I grew up with. Doesn't matter for the rest of the presentation or anything, but I'm old now, I guess, so I get happy when I see things that I remember from when my body didn't hurt. Second slide. Good, clear explanation. Doesn't need to be more than that. Like, this is the background, this is some stuff. Core mechanics, RPG system, pretty straightforward, as you say. Also harkens back to kind of like the old school stuff that you could see on Newgrounds to a certain extent, and that early era, like late 90s RPG settings for the web stuff. Space Trades also seems pretty straightforward. I was really impressed by how you tackle the tower defense, because tower defense I really like tower defense games. Like I play way more than I probably would like to tell publicly. But many of them have that issue, right? That it becomes a passivity thing. Like you plan out things out, and then you see it play out. By adding this RTS mechanic to it, you make it much more interesting to fuck around with, especially in tandem with every other system that you have in here, right? Inside the station, like having...
I can say something. Sorry.
Yeah. Also, just break in. Like, I will talk.
Okay. So also the ships inside the real-time strategy, they have their own experience system and their own skin. So they are leveling up as the fire rate is higher, the speed is higher.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, no, I mean, systems-driven stuff like that is super interesting, because it becomes, I'll see how much I can push it and what comes back when I do it, right? Then you also mentioned the Dome Keeper tension situation. I was also thinking about that when you mentioned that time moves differently when you're inside and outside. So it's a really, really interesting way of doing it. Obviously, the main risk of doing this is that all of them need to be good, right? The RPG system needs to feel fun to fuck around with, and it needs to feel like it's impactful. The tower defense needs to be engaging and interesting enough to make me want to, it can't be something that I suffer through. The space trade is, for people that like Excel, it's going to be great, but it also needs to talk to people that like Nuclear Throne and for people that like RPGs. So it needs to find a balance of being like both very in-depth and interesting, but have enough of the arcadey shit from the web era, so that anyone that can swoop in, you shouldn't need to be 10 years deep into Paradox games to get that part of the game. But it's still, some fucker from that part of the world is gonna come and go like, I wish this was deeper. So it needs to speak a little bit to both. Video works really well. Like that's a fine ass video, tells you all what you need to know. It's not flashy or anything, but it shows you this and this and this and this in a very easy and succinct manner.
It was made in 1 weekend, like 20 hours. Amazing stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, like I usually get in really, really early, right? Like getting such a beautiful video as like Horizontal Entertainment had, that's like a luxury compared to like having like, caviar at the restaurant at some point. Most of this time I see, white boxed stuff. So this is also like, this is really, really good.
I have a question. Do you think to put the trailer before in the speech? I put it there because it gave me a break so I can stop talking.
No, I mean, I think that it's fine to have there. I could, because otherwise I would probably think that I knew what you were going to talk about. It's fine to have it after the core mechanics, because then you've given me the insight and you made sure that I actually listened to what you were saying. And then you have a video that kind of like both rehashes what you just said, but shows how it works in game as well. If you put it before that, I will try to, think forwards and be like, so that works like that. And then maybe I'll miss something when you talk later on.
Nice.
Not because I want to be an asshole, but because my brain is just like, nice. taking what it does. The info page on in terms of like, this is what we built in 4 months, and this is what we want to build with a team. Just having that side-to-side comparison, really, really simple, effective way to showcase the scope difference between what I can be playing and what you're going for. And also, adding that it's going to be arted up with additional artists and so forth. And the timeline, 18 months. The flash fiction part, so that adds another one of those, right? Where it needs to be fun for the comedy stuff. It needs to be like maybe cheesy, romantic, like 50s sci-fi stuff, romantic. Yes. But and it needs to have the horror element and it needs to have the comedy. And because you can have all of them at the same time as well, right?
Yes, that's the idea.
Yeah. So that means that you have to have some ability to kind of deal with the fucking, twists and turns. Like 1 minute you get it as a horror thing. Someone has been infested with an alien parasite, and they're bursting out on the kitchen table. And at the same time, someone's fucking in the cupboard and someone's slipping on a banana peel, and then all of that has to be like, make some sort of sense in some way, or it doesn't need to make sense, but it needs to be irreverent or fun.
The narrative system has this own system that each flash fiction needs to conclude to run the next one.
Right.
So, and the music is going to change before you see the flash fiction. So we can do that with the code, programming that. So.
Yeah, because, but you probably might still end up in a place where you're like, you're burying someone in the final parts of a horror fiction, but you won against the monster, and then you find yourself like the next week in a short comedy thing, which like life happens, right? You go to a funeral and sometimes someone farts. Like life is sad and funny at the same time. I don't know if you think it's funny to fart, but just the top of my head. So it's fine, but you have to. I'm curious to see how it plays out. I have nothing to say in regards to the price point. I think that might be fair. Team slide was good, like easy explanation. Good that you added like, that you will be able to go to people's socials or ArtStation or wherever they want to go. Also, you mentioned a little bit on the marketing side when you were talking about doing content drops in different periods of the development outside of the game. And in other mediums and other ways. That's a nice way to kind of that gives me some insight in how you're thinking about it. So that's nice.
See, that's what's because I realized that we're going to have a lot of art, and if we put it in the game, and maybe to the people to watch all the art have to play all the game, and not everyone people play all the game. So we can use that art in social media to like make posts every day, and it's like, but it has to be connected with the production. So it has to be someone taking the videos, taking the sprite, and making the social media stuff.
Yeah. What I noticed was that it's 7 members in the slide, but you mentioned 15 on the previous one. Yeah,
because they are the writers. I didn't put the writers on the.
Okay.
Because we have to finish the deal, but we have confirmed like 7 writers, something like that, from Mexico, Argentina, Spain, different countries, and they are specific from a specific genre. So
that was my follow-up question. It's like, how are you gonna push out 1,000 flash fictions? Because I didn't see like more than one writer, but then that makes sense.
No, in production, every writer has to make like 5 fiction per month, and I'm going to do the other 5 flash fictions, so we can pull it out.
No, that's all good. It was just based on the team slide. I was looking at it, and I was like, who's gonna write all this stuff? Like, there's a lot of fucking words, and there's like more artists than there's writers. But yeah. Budget seems fine. Like, it's a good overview, like simple to see like how you ended up at 13,000. Easy to see how it ends up being 246K. I think it's just from a gut perspective. I obviously haven't gone through the detailed budget. I think it makes a lot of sense considering that you have people spread out a little bit in different countries. It doesn't stand out, which is good. Right, you don't want a budget that's like too low or too high. That makes people worried. And as in regards for the last one with you, the info about you, it's I think it was a good summary of things. I like that you bring up that you've been putting demos out and doing smaller projects, and you've been filming yourself, and you've been doing like it doesn't matter. The quality and whatever of like early demos and shit doesn't matter, but what you showcase is that you over time you've been repeatedly doing the right thing over and over again, right? With trying new things, trying that. You didn't waste time on making your own assets because you want to make the fucking game, so you got some that were free, and just worked on the mechanical aspects of things, which is perfectly fine and good, even, I'd argue. And you also had a pretty clear definition of what you want from a publisher. It's not just actually the publishing, it's also business knowledge and the experience of like, all right, so we want to transfer our like passion projects into a professional setting, and we hope that we can get help with that as well, which tells me all right, that means that we have to ensure that we have a producer that maybe have experience of setting up their own companies, or that we can bring in people from the company to have that discussion as well. And for Raw Fury, it's not an issue. We're 90-ish people or so. I worked as a business developer for indies, and I ran an incubator. There's tons of people that have those experiences, but outlining it also tells me this is something that we should keep in mind when we bring this deal in.
Also, I didn't say in the pitch, I am the host of the Game Maker meetups here in Argentina.
Nice.
So I'm in contact with the people of Game Maker, and I'm in contact with a lot of game developers here in Argentina. Yeah,
and that's also super good, right? It just showcases that you have put the time into the industry in a good way. Sweet. Yeah, that was the long story short on my end. Thank you for presenting and taking the time to do it.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks. Super thanks to everyone. Could you guys give me a chance to take a picture for all of us? Yes, it's super good. We have big studios now with long history and new face for these young developer and students. So I'm happy to. So, okay, ready for a picture? 1,
absolutely.
2, 3. Thank you so much. I'm gonna post it on Twitter.
Thank you.
You have some questions, Anke? The last
I was
one?
going to say, is there any questions in the chat?
Hi. There is actually just one question that I saw.
Yeah.
Let me double check, but for now the question
Yeah,
is
no,
that
that's all good by me.
yeah. For now the question is that is some specific point of development you as Raw Fury prefer or rather have a game? Like, are you okay with having a game in pre-production phase, in production, maybe even just for the marketing phase?
I mean, that kind of comes down to like how comfortable you are with your build. Like some games can be very, very early and still be very fun to play around with. Like I've signed some stuff that were, you know, super arted up and had really good art already in and like visual target stuff, and games that have been absolutely nothing like what they ended up being in the end art wise. I would rather say you should try to have, you know, maybe 12 months to like 12 months plus until you're planning to release. 12 to 24 months or something like that is probably like the sweet spot. But I mean, I've signed stuff that was like 6 months out and we needed to add some months to that. That's not an issue. I've signed stuff that's 25 months out. That's also not an issue. It just depends on the complexity of the project and just how good the build is, and how confident you are in the build and how confident you can make me be in the build. Yeah, that was a long answer for a short question.
Excellent. No, it's amazing. I think the more complete the merrier. Okay, so
Okay.
yeah, that was actually the only question that was left for us.
Sweet.
Yes. Last words, Johan?
I hopefully won't give you any last words. I hope to see some of you in San Francisco in 2 weeks and not die tonight. But yeah, thanks for taking the time, especially for you who wanted to come in and pitch. I think that's pitching is always fucking harrowing, and doing it live and doing it in front of, you know, the internet is always you know, can be scary as shit. But more importantly, what you do by doing it is that you allow people that aren't in a position that you are to learn from you, and having that building up like a good knowledge sharing hub, especially you know, in these circles where it might not be as easily accessible, is good.
Yeah, especially for that. Thanks for you guys to believe in or support what we are doing, trying to approach this knowledge to the students and schools and young developers growing. So thank you so much. Thank you everyone to be in the chat, and thanks a lot. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
See you.
Goodbye.
Nos vemos.
Thank you,
Hasta
Jan.
luego.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias por
Bye.
estar.
Saludos a todos.
Gracias
Bye,
a
bye.
todos. Que les vaya bonito día.
Hasta luego.
Igual.
Hey.
Hasta luego, adiós.
Sí. Bonito frío día, Johan.